welcome back to GFF and Friends, the podcast that's decaffeinated. Hello, I'm your host, GFF, aka Todd, and joining me today is one of my favorite people on the planet, a very talented comedian, a wealth of pop culture, a font, if you will, and he's Canadian. Give it up for Andrew Johnston.
Don't tell nobody. Hi, how are you? Decaffeinated. Why is it decaffeinated? Because I am not decaffeinated.
It's one of my favorite commercials of all time. You don't know this commercial?
Remind me.
Oh, God.
I am Canadian, so I did get a different media diet, slightly different.
Lauren Bacall did a...
Oh, of course. So I know that.
Yeah,
now,
coffee commercial.
I know it because of YouTube. Like, I wasn't old enough to have witnessed it concurrently, to my chagrin.
Yeah.
Because that's where she is in the limo, the stretch black limo going from Connecticut to saying, like, every night before I could step on stage for the theater, I started with... And what is the brand of coffee? It's not Folgers.
High Point
decaf coffee. And I'm just like, why? To move the bowels, I guess.
My favorite, so I think there's four different vignettes, and I think my favorite is I've got enough energy, thank you. That's why my coffee is decaffeinated. And I just let you go, I've got enough energy, thank you. Who has enough energy?
I just did not know her stage provenance until recently, until I really looked into it. You know,
really?
I didn't. You know, I knew her as, you know, that sort of like, you know how to whistle, don't you? Just put your lips together and blow. And I'm just like, that would have been like Cardi B back in the 40s, like saying like, fuck my wet ass pussy. Like, it would have been so graphic and explicit to audiences in the 40s. But then I didn't know that, you know, she's two-time Tony winner for musicals.
Yeah, she I feel like was one of the first silver screen gals that had a career from youth to middle age to seniorhood.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Deanna Vreeland documentary, The Eye Has to Travel?
I have, but I have this tendency to like watch things, take them in, enjoy them, and then completely forget every detail about them.
Well, it's a comfort film for me, so I do watch it a lot.
I love New York fashion stuff. I love it.
Could care less about capital F fashion, but I will watch any documentary about fashion.
Yeah.
Something about the characters.
Anyway. Bury Me at Barney's? Is that what it was? Or Bury Me at Saks? No.
Something like that. Bury me at Macy's.
Yeah.
No, bury me at Ross's Dress for Less.
But that would be my documentary.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, title of your next memoir. But so Lauren Bacall, Deanna Vreeland discovered her, and in that documentary she said
like
something like, I just remember seeing, because she also has a very bassy voice, and she says, I remember seeing that wide Russian face. I don't know, she'll appreciate being called Russian.
They just don't talk like that anymore.
They do. Well, I do.
Well,
in
not in public spaces.
We do off the record.
Yeah,
but yes.
exactly.
We call a lot of people. We talk about your wide Russian faces.
Yeah. Speaking of wide faces, you're on your third album now? Fourth. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Fully recorded. Ready to...
Ow.
Oh,
it was released August 26th or something like
That's
that.
my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Weird. Happy album birthday.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
You.
What's it called? What's this one called?
Pomp and Circumcised.
Oh, great.
Because check
now we know.
Check.
Now we know. Not only is it a preference, but you're also the president of the company.
Yes.
So your previous albums had concurrent names, didn't they? Like, don't the names of your albums have to do with each other?
No.
I thought one did.
No. I mean, okay. If it was like the sort of Edinburgh Fringe Fest model, like I'm pretty familiar with, well, reasonably familiar because I have friends in the UK. They will do that with their fringe shows, and that to them is their version of the albums. The album's just, I don't know. I think it's just whatever I think is punchy copy. My first one was called White Devil, which maybe I'd rethink now, but it was a decade ago. I do remember my friend Ariane, whose birthday it is today, Ariane Young, shout out, gorgeous woman of color. I remember her saying, maybe not, but did not listen to her.
Yeah.
Shut up. Anyway, but yeah, so
the first one's White Devil.
White Devil. The second one was called Andrew Johnston, and then in asterisks sips tea, as in like, you know. And then my third one was called A Special Place in Hell. And then this one is called Pomp and Circumcised.
These are all amazing titles.
I was going to name it. This would have been apropos for your podcast. It was going to be called A Moment on the Lips, A Lifetime on the Hips, but it was a little bit of a mouthful.
Story of my life.
Yeah,
it always is.
It always is.
That's wonderful. Now, do you do the thing? do those words ever appear in your set? Is there a joke about any of those?
They fucking should, but they don't. Right. Yeah, no, that's the thing. You probably should. A lot of comedians will name their albums. See, the reason that in Canada we do this is because we do have a designated channel on SiriusXM, channel 168, the SiriusXM Comedy Club, which is committed to playing independently produced Canadian content, and that is the only reason that a lot of us are able to make a living.
I was going to say, you get a lot of money from that, don't you? Or enough?
You can.
Yeah.
Not everyone does, but some people are making off like bandits, I'll tell you that. I am not one of them, but I do fine, and I'm very grateful to the channel and Ben Miner who programs it. But so a lot of comedians will name it something pertaining to their act, but I think when you see the cover, it doesn't make any sense, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I feel like it's always like their closing joke that's like 15 minutes long.
So if that was my closing joke, I don't even know what it would be. My closing bit on this album is about how I'm quitting comedy. And thinking about other things that I could do, and one of them is, I was trying to think about in which there isn't much, if any, gay male representation in this field. Something in which I could really, be a pioneer in the field, and that's suicide bomber, because gay men and queer people are very underrepresented in the extremism community. I didn't see a single rainbow flag at the insurrection, so I think there's a window there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say like gay suicide bomber.
Who was our last big one? The guy that they just made an American Horror Story about, the one that like went around. What was his name? The guy from Glee played him.
You mean Jeffrey Dahmer?
No, the one after him, the one that killed Versace.
Oh, Andrew Cunanan.
Yeah, he was our last one, right?
Serial killer?
Gay serial killer.
Gay serial killer. Yeah, no, there's a rich tapestry and history of gay serial killers, but not extremists.
I guess. So, assassination. That's kind of extreme.
Assassination. Well, I think it was sort of just. Was that an assassination?
Yeah, what is the designation?
Gianni Versace wasn't a head of state.
Yeah, what is the designation when you get to use that word?
I just think he was someone who was, put his dick in the wrong hole, or vice versa.
But anyway, Andrew Cunanan was our last like famous gay bad person, right? Probably?
Maybe. I'm always so shocked, and oh god, we were just
90s.
Talking about how the algorithm stifles you for calling yourself gay fat friend. Well, now we're getting into it. If you want to see a video stifled, this is going to be it. But no, in terms of like when you think of that guy in Butler, PA, the Trump first assassination attempt.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why gay men are angsty? Why does that not materialize? Like, why are there not more gay school shooters?
Well, exactly. Well, they usually take it out on themselves.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
I would like to see a shift in the culture in which they decide, in which they get some entitlement the way that these straight guys do, being like, no, actually, I'm going to go out with a blaze of glory and take these assholes with me.
Yeah, when we said equality, we meant equality.
We meant capital E equality.
In every direction possible.
Yeah, so if that's not going to get you shadow banned, nothing fucking will, babe. Sorry.
Well, what I was going to say, back to your closer joke about quitting comedy, I don't want to sound like one of those people in AA, but I did it, and you can do it too.
I like doing comedy. I really like it. It's just, I wish the feeling was mutual. No, it is, but there's really no path forward right now in live performance. Live performance right now would basically be tertiary to your cause. It would be like merch. It's like, oh, wow, you can competently do a live act. What a plus.
Yeah.
And so that is unfortunate, but we'll see what happens. Listen, the industry has changed so much in the last 4 years. The goalposts have moved. Like, just if I was to look about a year ago, it was completely different a year ago. It will be completely different a year from now. Of course, we have this little thing happening on November 5th, which I think will determine a lot of stuff. A new world order is nigh. And so I think, but yeah, no,
and that's one of the reasons why I quit. I quit in the pandemic. I did do one Zoom show, terrible. And then I did in like 2022 when we moved to Seattle, I did do one live show to be like, do I want to do it again? And I did not.
Really? I pictured that you were just, I was going to ask you this off mic about like, what's the Seattle scene like? I just pictured you in crunchy bookstores and coffee houses.
I went to a couple shows. I met a couple local comics, and I'd already known a couple local comics. And just having taken the pandemic off of going to comedy clubs and comedy shows, and then going back to it and seeing like the hustle and the struggle and I just didn't have the fight in me, that dog died. I don't have that dog in me anymore. And, but I actually I joke about it, but I actually have like stand-up trauma of just being like, the feelings of bombing are still in my body. And sometimes, cause I have OCD, I'll like hyper focus on like, oh, remember that one time I bombed at that one show and blah blah blah. But then like,
it's interesting. I don't know the feeling. But go on.
comedy is so aggressive now, especially with like straight men and their like online fandoms, like fanboys and fan bases and Reddit and clips and all this stuff. I feel like stand-up is a totally different animal, and I literally have trauma about the industry of the hustle and the struggle. And like the thing, I'm literally not trying to bring you down and get you to quit, but the thing I hate about it the most is that a lot of us are so talented and work so hard and have done so much and are just so funny and so good. And then like Matt Rife gets a career, you know, it's just like, I'm so jaded by, who succeeds in this world.
I mean, I don't want to get too inside baseball here for the listenership who I think wants to hear us talk about bulimia, but which, oh honey, we'll get to, but, it's my read on the situation is that, okay, BLM happened. Well, the BLM critical mass, George Floyd happens, and all these white dudes at the top of the pyramid, to save face, over-program, for lack of a better term, DEI. So the gatekeepers are over-programming that to sort of take the heat off of their own, you know, so they can keep their own station. As it turns out, there's a majority of people who really do want their meat and fucking potatoes. So straight guys buy fucking cameras and just start to platform and broadcast themselves in lieu of actually being broadcast and platform for an audience that is still really, really wanting that. And
there are comedians, I don't know their names, but they're getting famous off of fake clips. They're setting up in their apartment like a wall and a microphone and a light and making it look like they're at a show.
Actually?
And oh yeah, we can look him up on TikTok after this because I don't remember his name, but he has millions of followers. He's going to be like the next Matt Rife. Oh. But it came out that he faked all of his clips with laugh tracks in his apartment and made it look like a fake comedy club, mainly because everyone was like, where is this show? You say you're set up in a comedy club. All the comedians started being like, where is this comedy club? I don't recognize that backdrop. I don't recognize that curtain, that microphone. And then it came out, he faked it all. And his clips, I mean, his jokes were funny, I guess, because they got like 5-10 million views. But it was all fake.
And that's
like the new thing.
Incredible.
Apparently, TikTok clips and Instagram Reels clips that can also be posted on Twitter are the new, Discovery, the new Netflix special. Like the way you build a career is with clips now. And so people are just making fake clips. People are going as far as to like plant crowd work in the audience so they can get a natural crowd work clip.
Well, that bubble has sort of bust now. Okay, it's interesting that that's still happening because my read on the situation is that stand-up clips are just not really like, unless you have like, this is the thing with the industry right now as a live act. If you haven't broken, you're not going to break. It's just, there's a quota, and it's just sort of like everyone has filled up the amount of followers, unless you are really offering something specific. Like, I like to think that I'm headed in the right direction now, but I mean, I guess I could do something like that, like fake clips, but instead I'm just producing them straight to camera with like visuals, because these are just things that I would never do on stage because I would know that's not going to fucking hit at any show, even at Akbar, so like that's going to be too specific for that. But it's really funny you say this. Last night, my friend Brandon Muhammad, who I think that you've met in passing, he sent me this clip from this younger comic, and I was just like, that's a laugh track. Like, there's no way.
Yep.
There's not like that, and I'll tell you off mic who it was. I'm just like, I would love to see that person actually try that fucking bit at any show in LA. People would leave. Yeah. There's something rotten in the state of Denmark about that. So it is, so that's happening now. That's happening. People
faking,
are.
And if you were in the monetization program on TikTok,
that is the marvelous fucking Mrs. Maisel. That's what that is, because that's what she did. Yeah. Rachel Brosnahan, she was just saying, Alex Borstein, who did have a little bit of a, she had done stand-up before, she was saying, it's really incredible how she's doing this. She's like, oh, well, I'm just saying the line. She's like, no, as a comic, because she would need to do it to no response at all so that they could layer that in afterwards, and she just had no qualms about that. A real comic would be sweating their fucking balls off. Yeah. And wow, but that's what's happening now. Yeah. That's incredible.
Because if you're in the monetization program on TikTok and your video is over a minute long, it has to be a minute to get paid. But if your video is over a minute and you're in the program, it's about $1,200 for every million views. So if you have a 10 million viewed clip that's over a minute, that's 12 grand right there. So a lot of these guys are making money. That was one of the reasons why Matt Rife blew up so much. He was making hundreds of thousands of dollars just from TikTok, just from the app of TikTok, paying him money.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't want to say it's a racket, but it's a new avenue of comedy.
Well, it's a racket with a very finite. I mean, it's a real roll of the dice with TikTok. You do well on TikTok?
I do.
I have like 2,000 followers. I don't have it on my phone, so I think that it doesn't really reward me. I only have it on my iPad that I publish off of because I could care less. I don't want to see fucking people's front-facing shit. My God. But, Ms. Harris struts into that office and that sale gets forced, and they don't want to do that because then China would need to disclose the algorithm and it would reveal all sorts of things. So that is a pretty precarious cottage industry, I would say.
It's funny, like I make most of my money from TikTok, and most of my content is on TikTok, but I'm also pro banning TikTok because it is so frustrating. What I was going to say too earlier about comedy, it's not a meritocracy. It's not a merit-based industry, which is so frustrating to my soul because I'm very much, I'm a Virgo. I was a Boy Scout. Fair is fair. Like, I think like you put in the work, you should get promoted, right? And so a big thing about me, about the entertainment industry as a whole, is that like I put in so much work, but then someone comes in with one audition and books the role of a lifetime, and now they're Emma Stone or whatever. So it's really hard for my body to interpret the entertainment industry because I think I think people should be able to earn things. And that doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, is it any different than it's ever been? Is it any different than it would have been 20 years ago when people would get these development deals based off of a fire set and they would get like 100, there's always been ridiculous, needless, unnecessary amounts of money thrown at absolute fire-breathing idiots. There's always been that. I hope you're saving up, Miss Rife. But there's...
And I think that's the thing I learned joining the industry is like, oh, it's always been this way. I did this to myself kind of thing, Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is funny. John Hastings, a comedian, I was having this conversation about, and he was talking about touring, doing the clubs across the states, looking at the slate of their calendars. They're all sort of clip comics who can't do their time. That is, and I've seen them here. You see them now. That is the method of construction now. You see people it's basically like doing an open mic where they are just firing off something, hoping it gets a pop that they can put out of context online. I'm like, and I can mention names off mic as well, where it's just like, great, well, you were incoherent for 5 minutes, let alone 10, let alone 20, let alone 45. So what is your fucking end game here? I don't get where you go based on that. But he was saying, he's just like, it was the same story. They can't do their time. They sell it the Thursday. They half sell the Friday. They 25% sell it the Saturday. And then they are never a draw again. Yeah. So it reminds me of the movie musical Chicago, where at the end, when Renee Zellweger of Roxy is auditioning at a vaudeville house, she sees Catherine Zeta-Jones with torn stock, and she said, listen, he says that one jazz killer can't sell it, but two jazz killers, that's a bill. So, it's just that's a thing. And so I said to John, I'm like, where do you think this goes? He's like, to be replaced by another metric that we can't anticipate. Yeah. And I think that that's true. I mean, that Sarah Silverman joke, what if everyone had AIDS? It would be like no one had AIDS. And it's like, well, if everyone has this glut of content and everyone has 40K followers and stuff, it's like no one does. There's got to be a new metric, Well, and whenever you do try to pivot your content or your jokes or what you produce, people are always like, I miss the old stuff. I'm like, I followed you for this one thing and now you're not doing that thing anymore. And it's like, it's because they want to train the algorithm so that they can be like, you like this, you like Todd talking about food. Not that you do that. I know people. I do. That's my brand. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Or a friend of mine, Tom Hearn, does Ina Garden, the bear. Oh, I love him. Yeah, the bareback Contessa, barefoot Contessa, and he's so funny. And it's just and that's. And he's very multitudinous. He contains a lot of multitudes. Like he's been at this game for a long time, has a lot of sketch acumen. But people want to see that. So then they can slip in a little video being like, I don't know, I think that democracy should be distrusted. And and that's what's up. Like it is not hard to see. The root of TikTok was, Americans like to see themselves dancing. What if we also electrify one of them at random and make them a celebrity? So it's like playing the lottery, and occasionally be like, Nancy Pelosi was really out of line to visit Taiwan. And search Tiananmen Square on TikTok. Guess how many results you'll find? 0. And that's I get a lot of that. Oh, no, I shouldn't say a lot. I don't get a lot of like bad stuff, but occasionally, like
I'll say something. Obviously, I'm, political, a Democrat, a liberal, and
I'm not even playing to the camera. Sorry.
You don't have to. No. I'm trying to deflect from the breeze coming in the window because it feels amazing, but also I'm like, is it hitting the mic? I don't know. We shall see.
All right. Oops.
But like, obviously, I'm fucking gay, married to a man, and we have a dog child. Like, of course, I'm gonna be a liberal and political, and I'll mention something or like wear a Harris shirt on my TikTok, and people are like, I really wish you wouldn't get political. I followed you for opening advent calendars, which is a thing I do in December. I'm like, bitch.
like, and is the appeal to that like an ASMR angle?
No, I just do openings, like box openings. It's a big thing on TikTok.
Yeah.
Where you just like, there's people that just like open their Amazon packages every day and be like, this is what I got. And it's a huge industry. But yeah, so
interesting.
People will be like, oh, I wish you wouldn't get political. I'm like, my life is political. Of course I'm going to say something. Like, it's weird when
Every
people aren't political.
Every fucking moment of my life is an act of political defiance.
And like, you can't vote in this country yet, right?
No, I'm a green card holder, so I can do everything but vote. I can certainly pay taxes.
And that's horseshit.
Yeah. And donate. I can donate to political candidates. I'm not going to. So stop blowing up my fucking phone, Colin Allred and Debbie Merkisel Powell. Wishing you the best, though. Really hoping you flip Texas and Florida this time.
But yeah, I mean, that's got to be... I can't imagine, like, not even be able to vote. Like, they're not letting you vote.
And my vote, like, back home is in my parents' riding now, which is ultra-conservative. So it's basically, like, whatever.
Like a wasted vote?
Basically.
Well, because Canada's doing a big election right now, too, aren't they?
No, I don't think so. Not yet.
Oh.
I wouldn't know, though. I'm very immersed in American politics. I know very little about Canadian politics.
You live here, so that makes sense.
I do, but also Canada's, it's boring.
Yeah. I mean,
really
it's always
boring.
going to be good at the end of the day. Probably.
No,
Really?
certainly not. No, the premier of Ontario, which is like a governor but with more powers, Doug Ford. Do you remember how Toronto had this crack smoking mayor years ago? Rob Ford. So that's his brother, and he's sort of reaping revenge on the province.
So weird.
And Ontario is the most populous province. It's where Toronto, Ottawa, it's got the biggest population centers. And he's in his second term now and is really running into the ground. I wouldn't be surprised to see healthcare privatized there by the end of it.
Really? It could go away? Mm-hmm. I mean, I know everything is that fragile, but I didn't realize that Canada would ever go backwards. I feel like Canada's always...
we're face down, ass up for the effect of our neighbor to the south.
Although I did remember when that whole trucker thing happened during the pandemic.
Which was funded by
I was
American
like, this
interests.
is Canada?
I know. Oh my God, a bunch of functionally illiterate fucking people with their convoys. War cosplaying. Oh, it was so stupid.
Yeah.
No,
it is cosplay. It is fully cosplay.
It's fully cosplay. I remember listening to some sort of person on the ground, CBC, which is our public broadcaster, who will be defunded if the Conservatives get in there. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. Anyway, but
broken clocks right twice a day. So.
Yeah, right. But I remember they were interviewing people who were doing this Occupy thing, and there was some woman who was like, "We're here making these guys food, and that's my Florence Nightingale right there." And I'm just like, you want to be in a war? Well, I think you're going to get your fucking wish soon, cunt. Anyway, oh my God, and I just dropped anyway. This is...
Oh, I didn't even tell you the rules of the pod.
No.
You can say that word. That word's fine. Yeah, I'll tell you after we record the other things you can't talk about, because you haven't talked about them yet. So I don't want to like plant a seed. And I also don't want to say the words, because I'm afraid it'll open a
Pandora's box.
Pandora's box,
yes.
Yeah. Well, and I'm always fascinated by how much... I don't want to say like how much Canada is in the United States, but like the border of Canada is not straight across. It is not flat. There are parts of Canada.
It is above like Montana and the Dakotas.
But there are parts of Canada. Like I remember seeing a statistic that like 75% of Canadians live below Maine or something. Yeah. It's something like that. Like if you draw a straight line, like a lot of Canada, especially around the Great Lakes and stuff, is down in the States.
Because that's the only habitable land.
Yeah. And I think Canada is like the second largest country in the world?
Geographically, I think after Russia,
Yeah. But it's 80%.
It's a lot
frozen lakes and wilderness.
Yeah, well, it's the Canadian Shield, which basically just means like something like 70% of it is clay. It's like rock and clay with like a little, like some firs, like some some Douglas firs or something like that.
Fir trees.
Like fir trees.
I thought you meant like the fur industry.
And animal furs.
Yeah, a lot of beavers.
Yeah, a lot of beavers, which are very industrious animals. I went on a deep dive about beavers recently. Fascinating. Anyway, they're going to solve the climate crisis, or at least They're going to be.
They're trying.
They're natural dam builders and ecosystem builder. Anyway, they're very fascinating. Yeah. Anyway, but that's why, like, when people look at, they're like, well, this land, why don't you make a city up there? And also, it gets very fucking cold. Like, I mean, every 5 minutes you get north of Toronto, it's like a different cold zone. It's really crazy. It's like, because that is the thing where I always say, like, Canada is going to be a great place to retire to. We do have a lot of fresh water that the world will want, but they'll invade in the summer and they will be gone by January. They really will.
That's how Napoleon lost Russia, isn't it?
Probably. Yeah, no, it's just like winter is not for the faint of heart. So, it sucks. It really sucks.
Well, I can imagine, like, just being in Seattle, like I was saying earlier, we had a very cold summer. It only got above 80 degrees like twice.
Wow.
And it was, of the summers I've been there, this is my third one. It was cold. Granted, we are on the water, but like, I can't imagine going 3, 4, 5 hours north of Seattle, how just like, chilly it is,
like half
year round. Yeah.
Half an hour. You get like, be on the lakes. Like my parents, my hometown is about 3.5 hours, just like northeast of Toronto, between Toronto and Montreal. It's every Christmas, like clockwork. It's like, as soon as I take the train back, and every time you get past the lake, which has this halo effect, it's like you enter another country. It's like completely snow-capped. It's crazy. So, and lovely for 3 weeks around the holidays, and then it is not. It's just like a bomb goes off. It's like you're just living in this nuclear holocaust for and just, it's so miserable and what it does to your biology. And so that, LA can have its, you certainly understand living here sometimes why Peg Entwistle threw herself off the Hollywood sign. But around January and February here, I never take it for granted. I'm always like, this is fantastic. Like, to not have winter to contend to, it is unreal.
Well, it's already fall and cold, like high 50s, low 60s in Seattle. And so when I flew down here, it was like 55 degrees when I got on the plane in Seattle, and I was wearing a coat and jeans, and I got off the plane in Burbank and it was 100 degrees. And I was like, oh, woof. But I've not felt dry 100-degree desert heat in so long that I was welcoming it. And like I said, I'm staying in a house with unlimited air conditioning.
That is fantastic. They have it figured out. Okay, that is the compound that is going to be prepared for Mad Max.
Seriously,
road.
The solar industry is complicated, but get solar purely for unlimited air conditioning.
That's it, and the fact that it is able to power like a grand estate like that's fantastic.
And like big batteries and such.
We are big weather queens. We were talking off mic about, because I believe we are recording the Tuesday, Hurricane Milton, which very innocuous name for a very deadly weather event.
Wasn't someone in Gilligan's Island named Milton? Or is that
the Professor Gilligan, the skipper, Mr. Powell? Maybe it was Milton Powell.
Is it Milton Powell and his wife?
Yeah.
Anyway, Milton's she's barreling towards Florida.
She is going to create new geographic. She's going to create new islands.
Yeah, the map of Florida could look different. It literally could have like a chunk taken out of it.
Yeah. So,
and my parents have a beach house fairly close to the eye of the storm.
Fort Myers, which just Florida anyway. Well, bless.
I actually, so my parents and I, we have a great relationship, but my mom does not like talking on the phone at all. She is purely a texter. My dad doesn't talk on the phone or text ever. I never talk to my dad unless I'm in person with him. But I have 2 older brothers, and they both live in Missouri near my parents, which is where my parents are right now, at the farm in Missouri. And I need to call my brother and be like, how are we talking to mom and dad about this? Because like I told you before the show, their house washed away in Ian 2 years ago. They just finished rebuilding it and moved back in this year in May. And so they just got their house back after almost 2 years. And now it's probably going to be underwater once again. And so I need to call my brother and be like, how are we talking to mom and dad about this? Because I don't want to call and trigger them. I don't want to call and hey, just wanted to call and see how you're feeling about your house washing away.
People, you need to consider people's feelings when talking about this literal scientific force that is impending. Yeah. I saw a clip of the longest serving or most senior serving meteorologist in Florida, something by the last name Morales, and he was speaking about this hurricane and he was starting to cry.
I've seen multiple meteorologists cry about it.
But you could see him needing to temper that because, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings by saying, excuse me, I'm very triggered by you saying that a climate change motivated hurricane is barreling towards and creating devastation. You need to respect my boundaries about telling me about this inevitable peril that I'm in. And it's just, I just think, who are the fucking snowflakes here? So I'd like to know. When the last time,
But also, like, I don't want to like make anybody feel. I don't know. I'm just afraid to like call them and like if my mom started crying over the phone while I'm talking to her, I don't know what I would do. You know, like I would probably lose it. I would be so sad. I'm so far away from them. Like, you know, it's just that thing. It's like, I don't know how to talk to you about this. So I need to talk to my brother first.
I mean, I'm just concerned about them rebuilding after this.
I know, like how many times are we going to play this game?
Shame on you. Fool me twice, but fool me thrice. I remember the last time that we spoke before you moved to Seattle, you were on sort of fraught terms with them, right?
Well,
ideologically, but you've mended.
They are getting better politically.
Great.
I do not think that they're going to vote for Kamala Harris, but I don't think they're going to vote for Donald Trump.
Really?
I was very surprised. I had a conversation
That's
with my
huge.
dad that he is very law and order. And so the fact that he's a convicted felon, my dad was drafted into Vietnam and is a Vietnam vet. And like none of Trump's draft dodging and veteran smashing affected him, bothered him. But, for some reason, the law and order of it all is he's finally like putting a foot down for law and order.
You know, it was said that when that conviction came down, that if it was enough to peel off like 17% or something of his voters, that said that would be a rub for me. And I guess that might check out.
Yeah.
Who would they vote for? The Libertarian?
Just not.
Just not.
They
Just
would-
down ballot?
Yeah, they would just.
They're still in
pick
Missouri,
and
so they'd
choose.
vote for Josh fucking
I
Hawley.
actually haven't talked to them because like they have resident status in Florida as well. They literally do 50-50. They're snowbirds, so they do 50% Florida, 50%.
Spread your tiny wings and fly away. Anne Marie.
So I don't know where they vote because they are 50-50. And I know like all of their cars, which is weird, they've had all of their cars registered to Florida. So all of their cars in Missouri have Florida license plates because they love to drive. That's
How long is that drive?
such a boomer thing. 18 hours, I think. Like
Where do they stop?
They love to stop in Tunica, Mississippi, which at the time, back in the day, was the Vegas of the South.
Really?
You can gamble. There's casinos, like full-size casinos, major gambling. But now every state has gambling everywhere. St. Louis has an entire section of downtown that is just casinos. Like gambling is everywhere. But they love to stop in Tunica, Mississippi. And then they usually stop in the panhandle of Florida. Because my mom's family is from Florida. She went to college in Miami. She still has a bunch of cousins all over the state. So like they see people. So they love to drive. That's their thing. They're drivers. My mom also hates like navigating airports and being on planes. And she's just like, I'd rather be in my car and take 3 days than, half a day and fly. But yeah, so I don't know where they vote. I don't know how they vote. But I do like to think if one day we do get the popular vote, as opposed to the electoral college, that we'll just happily be canceling out each other's votes every year.
I think that is going to be very feasible, and it's because, and I'm very steadfast about this, the electoral college will be sorted out eventually when all of the coastal elites need to move inland.
It's happening now, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening now. So that will be figured out, and that is when maybe you'll get more than a two-party system here.
Yeah.
When the popular vote happens, and that would probably be a welcome change. And I could see it being sort of like Canada's was, in which you would have the far-right Reform Party, the center-right Progressive Conservatives. They've since coalesced because they were losing too much. So, and then the Liberal, which is center-left, and NDP, which is like the Bernie social, the National or the New Democratic Party. And I think you'll have something like that here. You'll have a progressive, a Democratic, Republican, conservatives.
Above anything at the top of my list, my number one thing is abolishing the Senate. I fully don't believe in the Senate. It's literally not fair.
How does Wyoming have two?
Yeah.
And how do we have two?
Yeah,
in California?
I think one person is worth 10 people in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Or to California. It's not
and
fair.
you the fuck are not Wyomingers. You the fuck are not.
Yeah,
you are, if
there is
anything,
nothing there.
You are a fraction of a human being.
But what I was going to say too, the other thing about the hurricane is that I've been seeing a lot of content because I also am on TikTok all day. Like I watch content. I don't watch TV anymore. I watch TikTok. And
you are not alone,
right?
Which is why this town is starving. But go on.
There are a lot of, I'll say it, disgusting Disney influencers that are like going to Disney World this week, happily saying like, Disney World is the best place to ride out a hurricane. We'll be safe. Disney World will be so safe for us. And I'm like,
what?
The hurricane is going to hit Disney World. It is in the path.
It will take care of them, then, right?
And just the fact that they're like being like, oh, the hurricane won't affect us. And I'm like, but it is affecting a lot of other people that are going to literally die and lose everything. So maybe don't smile in the face of impending doom. That's what, besides the fact that they're at Disney World in the hotels, making people go to work and shit like that. The fact that they're just like, oh, well, we'll be fine. And I'm like, but a lot of people won't. So now's not the time to smile and be like, we're going to be fine. We're at Disney World. They'll take care of us. Because a lot of people aren't going to be fine.
You don't know how that's going to shake out. They might be. I will say, I saw this clip of some woman who my heart goes out to a degree, who is in an evacuation zone in Tampa. And she's just saying, I got 7 kids. I got my stepmother staying here. I got my husband and 4 dogs. And we only have a 7-seater. And
I saw her.
That's on you, boo. I'm sorry.
Rob and I were talking about that today. It's like, okay, you call a neighbor that's evacuating and throw as many kids in that car as you can.
That's irresponsible.
Right? Like the other option is literally death. So like you're not even going to try to do everything possible. You're not even going to like start walking. They're like, we don't have gas for our car. I'm like, I guarantee people in your neighborhood that evacuated left cars behind, like siphon gas out of their car into your tank and leave.
So The Last of Us.
There are things to do. Again, I was a Boy Scout. I know how to do it.
Do you? Could you could survive? You can like.
Yes.
What is like the most impressive thing that you think you could like survivalistically do?
Well, I know how to pack. So if I know something's coming, I know the essentials. I know what to take to survive.
Okay.
But also, I can make fire out of nothing. That was my favorite thing to learn.
Set fire to the rain.
That was my favorite thing in Boy Scouts, was learning how to make fire out of nothing. Literally, a 2 sticks.
What would you do? Make it right now. If you were to make it right now.
Just rub 2 sticks together. It literally is that easy. And then you use, if you have access, dryer lint, or you find just the finest brown, pretty much grass of LA. Like you just make a little nest of something and rub 2 sticks together and you will make fire. And I can do that.
No shit.
Yeah. And it's a joy.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
very proud of that. Not proud of the Boy Scouts, although are we? Maybe we are. I think they're progressive
Did you
now.
ever get up to any monkey business?
I kissed my first boy in a Boy Scout tent.
There you go.
Yeah, Mark Hawkins.
Ooh.
I think he's straight and has kids in Tennessee. Who cares? He'll never hear this.
He still thinks about you, I'm sure.
But, well, having said that, I think we covered more stuff in this podcast than I ever have because, I usually host with my teeny tiny husband, Rob, who we have a picture of here.
Oh, and he's delightful.
I don't know if you noticed, but Rob is still with us. I brought a picture so he can be part of the pod.
Yeah.
But this is we covered a lot of bases. Very inside baseball on comedy, which is nice. It's nice to talk about that.
But if anyone is looking to get into comedy out there, don't. Well, you know what? When you said that you've quit comedy, you haven't. You were still very much doing it. You were just doing it in very 2024 terms.
Yeah.
In terms of content, because that is what it is now.
Yeah, I will just never stand on a stage and hold a microphone again unless a bunch of money was thrown at me. But let's move on to our final segment, which is What's Your Order? What's Your Order? I have here in my hand a takeout container of America's favorite fast food restaurants.
Okay.
And we are going to pick out a restaurant and say what our order is. So, without further ado, please, today's What's Your Order will be...
Okay. McDonald's.
Beep, 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 beep. Well, I'm excited because McDonald's in Canada probably has different food, right?
I don't think so.
I love an international McDonald's.
I think it's like from sea to shining sea to Russia. Like that's the big thing about McDonald's is before Starbucks. It was the thing where it was like, this is consistency, same menu everywhere.
Well, I lived in London for 6 months in college, and the London McDonald's have totally different food.
There would be different regulations.
They have a chicken curry Big Mac, or they did, and a lot of different. Like I know, like Thailand has like a banana pudding thing and all this stuff. But
no shit.
And speaking of Canada, we'll get into our McDonald's orders in a second. I had all dressed chips for the first time last week. Divine.
Yeah.
I figured out the recipe right away because they are just barbecue chips with salt and vinegar chips. If you eat one each of those together, it's an all dressed chip.
Just crack the code.
I did.
Watch out, Lay's.
I'm a chip connoisseur.
Yeah.
So. But the ones in the States right now, Ruffles
yeah.
is bringing all dressed down, and so I got them in the grocery store, and they were a delight. But yeah, it's just like sour barbecue.
Yeah.
I've heard about them for years, and so I was like, I need to try these all dressed chips.
That's a big thing, and then I think that's the only thing that I could. Yeah, all dressed basically. That's all Canada has to offer, really.
All dressed chips.
Yeah, and
poutine.
Poutine, dwindling healthcare. Yeah. Yeah.
I love poutine. Well, I think McDonald's at one point had poutine. Anyway, what's your McDonald's order? Are there various McDonald's orders?
Nothing fucking recently, I'll tell you that. I can't remember the last time that I had McDonald's.
What?
Yeah.
There's one 2 blocks away. You don't go to McDonald's?
Never. I rarely eat out in either respect, unfortunately. It's been very dry for me. The last hole I had a tongue in was in May. But
Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, truly, yeah. But no, my go-to in LA is actually the California Chicken Kitchen, which is still far and few between. Yeah, but McDonald's. Ate a lot of it when I was a kid. The Big Breakfast. I saw someone post about that.
Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day.
And I remember I have very fond memories of when I would be a kid waking up watching Muppet Babies and Pee-wee's Playhouse. Mm-hmm. And then my father would take us, my brother and myself, to McDonald's, and I would get a Big Breakfast, which was that horrendous processed sausage patty, some sort of a scrambled egg, an English McMuffin, and again, English McMuffin, and maybe there was something else in it. But,
so our big breakfast in the States was 2 flapjacks. I think bacon or sausage and scrambled, like a liquid egg.
Yes, a liquid egg.
With their little cup of brown corn syrup that they call maple syrup.
Yes.
I love the McDonald's Big Breakfast.
And a hash brown.
Yes, and a hash brown. I was like, wait, we're missing something.
One of those hash browns that look like a candy bar almost.
Yeah, I definitely have 2 distinct McDonald's orders because I love breakfast. I could eat breakfast for every meal of the day.
Yeah, same.
Love it.
Same.
And all aspects of it. It's funny, Rob and I have talked about it before. I could do a podcast called Breakfast, and every episode would just be a different breakfast I want to eat because there's so many breakfast things. We did an episode. We started over with the fast food restaurants because we have gone through all of them. So for the LA episodes, which I feel like, when like The View used to go to LA and do a week in LA, or like Wheel of Fortune would do a week in Hawaii.
Yes.
This is my LA week of episodes. And so I put all the fast food back in because we had gone through them. And we are to the point of our Seattle podcast where like, one of the what's your orders was just potatoes and all the different potatoes you could eat. One was cake, one was steak. I'm running out of Christmas morning. Like I'm just running out of, what's your order things to talk about. But breakfast is it's so delicious. So at McDonald's, I just love a good old sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. I've never liked McMuffins because they do the whole fried eggs, but the yolk is hard. And I don't generally like a hard fried egg yolk. I need a runny yolk. So I love the McDonald's sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits. In high school, when I finally got my driver's license, my senior year of high school, I got my driver's license my junior year of high school, I would get up extra early and go to McDonald's and get 2 sausage, egg, and cheese biscuits and a large Dr. Pepper. And that was my breakfast every morning in high school.
Every morning.
Yeah. Because, fat kid living out in the middle of the woods, did not have access to whatever I wanted.
You need to go and get your own eggs from the coop. Probably.
Which we did. We had chickens. I could have made it all at home, but I'm a kid, and McDonald's was like the ultimate.
Owning poultry is very 2004 or 24. I like a lot of people are doing that now.
Well, the key for us was I grew up on a big farm, so like the barns were far away because even the barns being far away with a forest between the barns and our house, you could still hear those goddamn roosters. Ugh. I think you have to have like one rooster around.
Yeah.
But who
just feeds loads to all the hens and wakes you up at the crack of fucking dawn.
But even the hens still make noise. And whenever...
Pick a little, talk a little.
Whenever my parents get new chickens every year, they always get rid of the roosters once they grow up. Because they're just so fucking loud.
I've heard
all
this.
Day long.
I've heard, and they're violent,
very violent.
And they're very territorial.
They will also like pick one chicken to take out all their aggression on. So like there'll be 15 chickens on one rooster, and for some reason this rooster will just pick one to pick on and rip all of her feathers out and torment her.
I think it's probably like that in the Church of Latter-day Saints with the sister wives. I think there's the one whipping girl.
There's always one. Everybody attacks.
Yeah.
Dolphins do it. It's really documented.
I didn't know about this. I did not know this.
Documents have their own law and order system that people are like, oh, those dolphins are kicking out a bad dolphin. And I'm like, I think those dolphins are bullying a dolphin.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to McDonald's. So that's my breakfast. And then my lunch/dinner/drunk food is a 10-piece nugget meal with a high C orange.
I will say, I think the last time that I had McDonald's was a drunk sort of thing, and it was McNugs and McDonald's fries, which are great for approximately 3 minutes, and then afterwards are
fresh.
Just objects. They are just inedible objects.
We can technically DoorDash McDonald's to our house, but it's probably about a 30-minute round. Like it's going to take 30 minutes from ordering it, and by the time it gets up to our house in Seattle, it's cold. Yeah. It's gross.
Yeah, but a piping hot McDonald's fry, synthetic fry, is great. It hits the spot.
There's nothing better than a fresh McDonald's fry.
Yeah. But I never go to that. I never go to that because I would need to get an app or something, and I don't know. It just always looks very foreboding. Like there is a Wendy's down there that we went to once, but I was like, this isn't as good as a Canadian Wendy's. And
I didn't know they were different.
Well, it feels different. Because my sort of thing, I think, if I don't want to veer off of McDonald's here, but
no,
I probably prefer Burger King more.
Really?
Yeah, I'd prefer Burger. I'm Burger King queen.
That's Rob's favorite Burger King. He loves Burger King.
Yeah, but no. Honestly, if I ever splurge on takeout here, it is the California Chicken Kitchen or Cafe. What they just opened one in Las Vegas.
I think there are two.
Yeah,
I think there is Cafe and Kitchen.
But there was something that originated on Melrose because they have a wrap called the Melrose, and now they have one just over in Las Vegas.
I used to eat there all the time because we lived by it.
Yeah.
But also so we're filming today.
Pardon me.
Bless you.
Pardon me.
You are so good looking. We are recording today in Andrew's beautiful abode here is this Silver Lake?
I consider it Silver Lake, but we're actually in the garbage jurisdiction of East Hollywood. We're right on the edge.
There you go, East Hollywood. But anyway, we're mere blocks away from my favorite bar, Akbar, which was like my Cheers back in the day. And then Akbar shares a parking lot with a big, glorious McDonald's that I have spent millions of dollars at. I have been to that McDonald's. I mean, I lived in LA for 15 years.
Single-handedly built the place.
I did. I've gone into that McDonald's several times to use the restroom, which I do not recommend. Gone through that drive-through several times. Had several drunken after escapades at that McDonald's.
Ooh.
That McDonald's was probably my number one McDonald's when I lived here because it was next to Akbar, and that's always where I was.
Yeah. There's a Del Taco across the street from that too, which is not bad.
Which is like the only Del Taco in my path of life the whole time I lived in LA. So like if I ever wanted Del Taco, it had to be like after Akbar.
Yes.
Sometimes I would agree to do Drunk on Stage, which is the stand-up comedy show at Akbar.
On Tuesday.
I'll be there.
Oh, great. Terrific. I was hoping that you may be doing it, but now that you've hung up the microphone. Okay.
But yeah, sometimes I would agree to do Drunk on Stage just so I could go to Del Taco because I was like, it's been too long.
I don't think you're the only one. I think that's a big lure.
Draw. It's a big draw to do in the show.
Certainly for Roz Hernandez. Yeah, she talks about it all the time.
Yeah, it's a delicious, and I honestly don't know of another Del Taco in LA. Like the only other one I know is in the Valley when I used to live in the Valley, but I can't in my mind's eye place another Del Taco that's, between West Hollywood and here.
Do you know where I could not find for the life of me that I used to go to all the time in terms of fast food is DQ. I do not know where there would be a DQ around here. The
furthest one is like an hour north in Ventura. We went for my 40th birthday during the pandemic because I turned 40 in August of 2020, and we couldn't do anything. But I was like, I miss Dairy Queen, and so we drove the 45 minutes north of LA and got Blizzards because it's an ice cream only one. Which
no Brazier.
No, but. In Seattle, DQ's everywhere. So it kind of came back into our lives going up there, which is nice.
At my place in Toronto, before I moved, there was a DQ. There was a standalone DQ, which people were just itching to turn into a condo at the corner, right around the corner from me. My order there, a liter of soft serve, which they would, because and I would put it in the freezer if I didn't, have it all in one sitting, which sometimes I would because I have an astounding dairy tolerance. Oh my God, it would frighten you.
I literally have a Lactaid pill in my pocket. Lactaid has changed my life.
I don't need that. I literally can handle it.
Jealous.
But that was just the texture of a Dairy Queen ice cream. Oh,
what a treat!
Oh, such a treat!
So I'm a Blizzard gal, but also I'll just eat a dipped cone or a parfait.
I think
peanut butter,
a derby they used to call them.
Yeah.
Peanut butter, that used to be my favorite when I was a kid. Yeah, and I haven't had one of those in a while. But every time I go back to my hometown, we go to DQ. That's our little thing.
Yeah, so, I used to do that too because there's I grew up with a DQ in my teeny tiny little Missouri town. Yeah. So whenever I went home to visit family, I would always go to the DQ.
I remember my mother, her first job was at a Dairy Queen back in like the 60s, and I remember she was just like, it's powder. That's how we make it. She's like, it comes in packs and it's powder, and that always blew my mind.
Dairy Queen was where all the softball and soccer and volleyball girls worked.
Yes.
But I grew up in a teeny tiny town. There was only 135 people in my graduating class. But all the cool sports girls, all of them worked at DQ. I don't know why, but that was just like, if you're a cool sports girl, that's where you work. And I think to this day, it's still all sports girls, high school
Really?
girls that work at the DQ.
Are they eating it?
No,
Yeah.
no, but I think, they all wear their like softball shirts and their high ponies and their visors, and they just work at the DQ. It's just where the sports girls work. Meanwhile, the gay, the closeted gay theater boys all worked at the outlet mall at the Gap outlet. So
there you go.
That's how we knew. That was how we used to have to come out back in the day. That's how you knew. Go to a Gap outlet and you'll find a gay teen. Well, thank you so much for doing my podcast.
Todd. Thank you.
Thanks for fitting me in. This was so fun.
Oh my God, of
so
course.
Great to catch
I
up
always
with you.
have room for you, babe.
So much inside baseball with comedy, but it was fun. And it's just
comedy isn't, but talking about it is.
Yeah, it's just nice to be in Los Angeles and talk about the entertainment industry.
It's
bad
dead.
or good.
It is dead.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and where you want them to find you?
Oh, Andrew Johnston on IG is probably the most reliable thing. That seems to be
I
what
will
I'm
obviously
most...
tag you in this so people can look at it too. But
that's what I'm most invested in growing. And I'm Andrew Johnston, 1999. The year I was born. No, on TikTok, yeah. And then, on YouTube, I'm Bitch Salad. But like... YouTube.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think this is going to be your year. This is going to be your year for YouTube. You're going to blow up.
Well, it's got to be because I'm dying next year. Yeah.
You're like, I've already put in the order.
I really have. Yeah, no idea.
But thanks for doing my podcast.
Thank you so much for thank you so much for thinking of me.
Yeah, and everybody, thanks for listening and following along. And don't forget to like and subscribe and all that junk. And we'll see you on the next one. I love you. Goodbye.
Bye.